Look who just caused a complete system crash with their nicely programmed tiny worldview. The stunning chaos agent, the living disturbance, the flaw in their well-crafted matrix of mediocrity. Yes, I'm talking to you. The one they keep referencing in various group discussions. The one whose name keeps coming up in talks unrelated to you because they can't stop obsessing. They're still roaming, analyzing, and asking the same question on repeat. How the heck did they do that? You can feel it, right? That odd tension in the air, that charged energy that ripples through every place you go into, every post you make, and every breath of your presence that comes close to their consciousness. Something shifted. Something snapped. A crack formed in their carefully constructed image of control. You were the earthquake that triggered it. They aren't simply bewildered anymore. They're out of control. Their group conversations have become into forensic laboratories. Every communication reads like an inquiry report, a crisis meeting, or a digital panic room, and they stare at their screens like archaeologists who have just discovered something that shouldn't exist. Something that violates every law they thought was absolute. All they can type now is "how" in all uppercase, complete with question marks, skulls, and fire emojis. Words fail them. Their language cannot comprehend what they have just experienced. You did not just achieve anything spectacular. You shattered their whole concept of achievement, power, and change. You did not just level up. You changed the definition of reality itself. They're now combing through your past like detectives investigating a system flaw, going through previous posts, conversations, and recollections in an attempt to pinpoint the exact moment you transitioned. But they can't locate it. There was no one tipping moment. There is no obvious transformation. Just an undetectable progression that contradicts their rationale. They're terrified because they can't explain you anymore. Consider their current surroundings. Someone tweets about the weather, lunch, or anything trivial, and you are mentioned within 3 answers. Did you see what they did though? Suddenly, the whole conversation freezes. The subject moves. People begin typing simultaneously, each with a hypothesis, each attempting to reason the impossible. Because if they can't explain you, if they can't boil your success down to a formula, it implies the principles on which they've constructed their existence are broken. It indicates that the system they trusted isn't working. It indicates they played it safe while you were out there doing something they don't even know the name of yet. They don't even hate anymore. Not really. Hatred necessitates a feeling of control. What they're experiencing now goes beyond that. It's an explosive combination of all your fears and fascinations. You have become an enigma. They can't ignore the force that has rewired their perceptions of what is conceivable and what consumes them the most. The terrible fact is that they thought they had you figured out. They carefully categorized, labeled, and placed you in a controllable little box in their hierarchy, where you were predictable, explainable, and secure. However, the box is no longer present. You broke it. And in doing so, you destroyed their idea of order. Perhaps you were the silent one. Perhaps you were the one who suffered while everyone else seemed to have their life perfectly planned. Perhaps you were the person with promise that no one took seriously. They enjoyed underestimating the other person because it made them feel superior. It provided them a feeling of control, false comfort, and the illusion that they had it all together while you were still stitching together your own reality. They based their confidence on your quietness, ego, and doubt. Then, without warning, you destroyed the whole foundation on which they stood. You did not seek for permission. You did not obey their so-called regulations. You rose quietly and shamelessly. Their sense of superiority came tumbling down with it. They are now mourning the breakdown of that illusion, oscillating from denial and fury like a damaged file unable to handle fresh data. First came the denial. That can't be genuine. Then came the excuse. It's probably just luck. Then the comfort words. Give it time. It will not last. But now they have to confront the reality. They have been rushing away. You did anything that prevented them from gaining entry to a level they were unable to locate. You broke a code they didn't even know existed. And that understanding is eating them alive. Especially in group conversations when people appear to cheer you on while privately scrutinizing every move you make. Attempting to reverse engineer a phenomena that they do not comprehend. They are treating your growth as if it were a formula, a recipe. They can steal and repeat a pattern. However, your actions did not follow a set formula. It was a change. Pay attention when your name comes up. There is always one voice that has to be quieted. Yes, but they probably had assistance. Or it isn't really remarkable when you think about it. Or the classic, I could accomplish it if I wanted to. I really don't want to. The final one sounds like someone drowning in denial, choking on excuses. Because they understand that even with a step-by-step guidance, they will be unable to recreate what you achieved. Because what you accomplished was not based on procedures, tactics, or strategy. It was about becoming. You become something they can't understand because they're still hooked to being understood, anxious for affirmation, and scared of the space where true development takes place, the space of full uncertainty clothed in unwavering confidence. They are now analyzing your every move, as if they were analysts deciphering encrypted messages from the future, screenshooting your comments, zooming in on your photos, developing hypotheses, verifying time frames, and creating conspiracy maps to explain your change. Because they are unwilling to embrace the basic, scary reality. You simply made a different decision. You moved differently. You stopped waiting for authorization from persons who lacked the necessary qualifications. And that one choice rebuilt the whole operating system. And with it, your destiny. But they can't accept the reality because if it's truly that easy, if it all boils down to a single option, it implies they've been making the incorrect decision all along. And that realization would demolish everything they've built their identity on. Admitting that you simply decided differently forces them to face a mirror they've avoided for years, one that reflects every missed opportunity, every fear they mistook for logic, every comfort zone they defended like a prison. Let's speak about who you have become inside their mental world. You are no longer merely a person to them. You are more than just someone they used to know or see on sometimes. You've matured into a psychic presence that has permeated their awareness. Living rent-free is like a mind infection that people can't get rid of. You've become the silent standard for their every choice, the yardstick for their self-esteem when they make a move. They wonder how you do it. When they do anything, the pride does not last because they immediately compare it to you. Yes, but it differs from what they did. This idea bothers them. You've penetrated their internal dialogue, becoming the voice that challenges their decisions. The shadow that follows their goals. They despise you for it, yet they can't quit staring. Here is the portion. They won't acknowledge the truth. They would rather choke than admit. They refresh your site more often than their own. They check your updates before checking their messages. They are more interested in your trip than in their own progress. Watching you has turned into a strange combination of intrigue, jealousy, and reluctant education. Every post, phrase, and peaceful moment you share seems like a broadcast from another realm that people can't reach yet can't stop listening to. You've become their fixation disguised as curiosity, their addiction disguised as a passing interest. The dopamine rush they receive from witnessing your next move makes them feel more alive than in real life. Here's the irony. Your silence irritates them much more than your presence. When you disappear, stop publishing, and go into your own creative cocoon, they begin whirling. The group conversations begin to light up again. Where are they going? What are they currently working on? Are they planning to release anything new? They are glued to the excitement and the expectation of your next action. Some people cope by denying reality. They have fallen off. It was just momentary, but the smarter ones, those who paid attention, knew better. They may detect a trend when you become quiet. It isn't because you're fading. It's because you're preparing for the next breakthrough, which will completely disrupt their sense of normalcy. Here's the kicker. This is the section that is causing them the most trouble. You are no longer competing with them. You never were. They just cannot grasp what it is like to function completely outside of the game. You're not even attempting to play with them. You aren't out here planning, scheming, or putting traps in their heads. You are not posting for attention, performing for approval, or planning your movements based on how people will respond. You are merely living. You wake up, breathe, act, and create without a plan. And that unvarnished, unpolished, genuine sincerity has a greater impact than any intentional move they've made. They spend hours creating the ideal image of success, writing and rewriting captions, selecting filters that conceal their uncertainty, timing postings to beat the algorithm, and agonizing over engagement metrics as if it were sacred scripture. They want affirmation, just way oxygen feeds on hearts, and comments provide brief confirmation that they matter. Meanwhile, you just exist. You enter digital areas as if you own them, not because you're trying but because you don't have to. You come up as yourself, and that simple act causes tremors in their perfectly managed environment. That is what damages their circuits. Your impact is effortless. You are not yet competing with them. You dominate every important measure. You aren't playing their game. Yet somehow you keep winning. You are not yet pursuing visibility. Your presence seems unavoidable. They've spent their whole lives maximizing influence. And here you are smashing records by being authentic. This is what drives them nuts. The understanding that everything they've ever learned about success, prestige, and strategy crumbles in the company of someone who just is. Their lives are suddenly separated into two timelines, one before you and one after you, and they have no idea what occurred before you. The world made sense. There were formulae, timetables, and hierarchies. Life followed predictable patterns. Go to school. Get the job. Climb the ladder. Post your highlights. But after you, reality shifted, and the rules they believed were unbreakable were no longer applicable. You have demolished the illusion of structure. You've shown that all of those required processes and correct procedures were just socially acceptable excuses for delaying their own potential. You become live evidence that the impossible is not complex. It is just unapproved. You bypassed the checkpoint, skipped the permissions, and rewrote the conclusion, including the bit where they are eaten alive. They observed the whole operation. They were there in the background when you were unsure, broke, ignored, or misunderstood. They saw your hardships. They mistook your quiet for weakness. They mistook your remark for hesitancy. They assumed your quietness indicated stagnation. As a result, they formed their assessments. They felt confident when they compared themselves to who they believed you were. They saw themselves above you, next to you, or even as your silent mentors. However, when the change occurred, when you broke free from every box they had erected, their whole worldview was rendered worthless. You haven't merely changed. You rewired the story. You helped them understand that what they considered reality was only a shaky consensus. And you no longer agreed to it. They're now scrolling over your history like investigators looking for proof. They missed past discussions, forgotten images, and communications they had previously disregarded. All of this now seems prescient. They perceive signs. They refuse to acknowledge authority. They feign not to feel aligned. They brushed it off as a coincidence. The truth was always obvious. However, witnessing it would have forced them to face their own avoidance. They would have been forced to recognize that their comfort was cowardice. Your instability was a result of evolution. That when they were performing, you felt unstoppable. You no longer see time in the same way. That's how it feels to them. They slog year after year, inching ahead through systems that deplete them. You are modifying reality in real time. What's taking them 5 years? You condense into 5 months. What takes months? You materialize within weeks. What takes weeks? You come into existence in days. They can't calculate it because their version of development is linear, but yours is quantum. They still believe in gradual progress. You make jumps, falls, and breakthroughs. They're still planning. You agree. They will justify it. They are capable of doing so. They will refer to it as luck, timing, privilege, or divine favoring. Anything to avoid confronting the reality. Because stating the truth means admitting they were sleeping while planning their strategy for victory. You learned to transcend. You stopped assessing success with measurements and instead embodied it as a frequency. You did not pursue validation. You vibrated to a point where it pursued you. And that's what keeps them up at night. Not jealousy or envy, but the terrible realization that you are evidence of. Everything they denied was plausible. You did not escape the system. You revealed it. You did not breach the rules. You demonstrated that there were never any. You did not develop silently. You detonated in plain view. And now, every time they see your name or your picture in their feed, it's more than simply a reminder of who you are. It reflects who they refuse to become. They're caught in linear time, bound by the predictable rhythm of cause and consequence. They were bound by the system's invisible shackles which taught them how to move. Everything about their development follows a formula. Study. Work. Wait. Climb. Repeat. They are creeping through life in single-file order, following a road laid out by generations of conformism. I'm terrified to walk off the line. Every milestone is pre-approved, and every win is conditional. Their whole lives revolves on a routine meant to keep them predictable and inside that framework. They mistake perseverance for development. Then there is you. You did not tread the route. You detonate. I charted it. You uncovered a quantum mechanism concealed inside yourself. Something that disrupts the basic fabric of development. While they're taking baby steps, you're jumping universes. You skip whole chapters of struggle, which they felt were hallowed rites of passage, as well as years of tiredness and bewilderment, and somehow arrive immediately in the elite timeline. It's not simply unbelievable for them. It is offensive. You went against their religion of paying your dues. You have made their sacrifices seem superfluous. Their constraints seem to be discretionary. You've shown that what they term hard work was for you. It's just a side effect of alignment. They murmur about justice and how life doesn't work that way. They claim it's not sustainable, not realistic. This is not how it is intended to happen. Because if it were that easy, if your acceleration is the product of a single choice of profound inner clarity, everything they've constructed their identity on will crumble. It indicates they have chosen terror, mistaking reluctance for reasoning and supporting mediocrity in the name of wisdom. It implies that the only true difference between you and them is not privilege, opportunity, or chance. It's bravery. And that is true. Their ego is not prepared for survival. So they search for reasons that will keep them in control. They tell themselves that they must have had assistance, a mentor, a network, or a hidden link. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it's divine luck. Perhaps you cheated the system. There had to be something. Anything except the truth. That you just awoke one day and refused to continue traveling at half speed. You did not hack the system. You outgrown it. You did not breach the rules. You knew the rules were ideas established by individuals who had never pushed the boundaries of reality. And that understanding, that transition from survival to sovereignty, altered the mechanics of your life. You didn't need additional time. You required a different time frame. You stopped begging for things to happen later and determined that now is the time. They don't understand how you compress time by collapsing reluctance. What they estimate will take 5 years. You can condense into 5 months because you are not carrying self-doubt into every action. You don't waste your effort second-guessing. You spend it producing. You do not materialize from hope. You manifest with assurance. That is why it seems to them like magic, since they have never seen what continuous attention and unwavering conviction can accomplish to reality. And now the shock waves of that knowledge are pervasive in their interactions. Your name no longer appears with regular individuals. You're no longer someone they know. You've become a case study, a phenomena, a simulation flaw that can't be explained away. You're the data point that doesn't match the model, the outlier that worries the scientists. They speak about you as if you were a myth, a legend, an unresolved equation that defies reproduction in their thoughts. You've surpassed individualism. You are no longer a person. You are evidence. Proof that the world bends to your willpower. Proof that change does not need approval. Proof that everything they'd learned about limitations was a big lie. As a result, you have become a contradiction. Both their inspiration and nightmare. They read over your updates expecting to find inspiration. But what they really feel is discomfort. You embody everything people secretly crave. However, if the topic deliberately avoids you, you are both live proof that more is possible and a warning that they are not living it. Your sheer presence dismantles their comfort zone, pushing them to face every desire they've put off. You embody freedom. And are they still chained to fear? Now, freedom looks like revolt. Their language has also begun to develop in response to your presence. You've become a vocabulary term, a cultural synonym for transcendence. In their group conversations, your name has transformed into a verb. They gravitate to your name. Someone accomplished something daring, audacious, and impossible. When someone makes an unexpected move, they call it. So you. Your name has become a linguistic metaphor for disrupting patterns and rewriting boundaries. This is both a praise and a confession. They're partially kidding, But the undertone is veneration because you've redefined the boundaries of what a human being can do when they stop following invisible laws. You've become a standard, a benchmark for what bravery looks like in action. When someone in their group defies fear and acts on instinct, they compare it to you. When someone quickly changes, they whisper your name as a code phrase. You have established a new benchmark for transformation. What is the new ceiling for? Ordaz explained. He implies that you are the calibrating instrument for the impossible. The most poetic thing is that you never asked for it. You never intended to become a symbol. You just became yourself completely, unashamedly, and without hesitation. Now they can't speak about evolution without mentioning you. You've become the gravitational force around which their notion of possibilities revolves at every stalemate. The ability they talk about carries your shadow. Every constraint they mention shudders in your presence. You remind them that the matrix they cling to is not a prison. It is a decision. You fled it not by resisting it but by acknowledging it never was. And it is the truth. They will never say it out. The portion that burns softly under their grins. You are not ahead of them because you ran faster but because you stopped going in circles. You aren't winning because you had an edge. You are winning because you no longer believe the race is genuine. You are no longer competing with them since competition implies common norms, standards, and constraints. You have outgrown all of that. You didn't just win the game. You recognized that the game itself was rigged. So you fled the arena and created your own universe from scratch. You carved yourself your own lane, category, and dimension of existence, one in which you no longer seek affirmation since your very presence is the validation. You operate under laws they can't see, rules they can't understand, and frequencies they can't feel. They see it as rebellion. But in reality, it is evolution. You're not disrupting the system. You've surpassed it. You've quit playing a game meant to exhaust you and are now developing the next one while they're still remembering the rules of the last one. The most intriguing aspect, the information that would send them into a complete psychiatric collapse if they fully understood it, is that you aren't even attempting to have this impact. You're not sitting in front of a mirror planning how to exploit their weaknesses. You aren't evaluating their behavior or adjusting your approaches to their answers. You aren't even thinking about them. You are merely existing organically, effortlessly, authentically. You are living, producing, constructing, and changing. And that alone has shaken their delicate sense of order. Your genuineness represents their doom. Every time you behave truthfully and move without reason, their illusion weakens a bit more. You aren't attempting to be mysterious. You're simply focused. You are not attempting to be frightening. You're just certain. You're not attempting to be inaccessible. You've merely outgrown the need to explain your life to folks who are fixated on their own gloom. That unwavering attention, that clear separation from their projections. There is no concern in whether they get it. That's what gives you power. This is what makes you untouchable. Because strength is loud and confidence does not declare itself. It simply is. You've reached a point of energy when quiet is louder than noise and your stillness seems more deadly than theirs. They cannot comprehend it. They don't comprehend how someone may move without seeking permission, shine without seeking affirmation, and win without battling. And yet here you are doing it all easily. In their minds, you've become a symbol, something more than a person. You are a myth. A contemporary legend whose life challenges the rules they've spent their whole lives following. You've become the discussion that never stops. The group chat that repeatedly mentions your name. The late-night theoretical session in which everyone has an opinion but no one knows the solution. You are both the mystery and the revelation, and their insanity stems from this paradox. They observe your movements as if they were a heavenly occurrence. Rare, forceful, and unexpected. They develop hypotheses to defend their egos. It must be luck. It must be timing. There must be some hidden benefit. They can't accept that what they're seeing is just the outcome of alignment, that you've achieved a state of inner clarity in which every action is exact, every choice is divinely timed, and every decision is motivated by purpose rather than fear. You are no longer functioning with effort. You're functioning in the flow. And that is what they can't bear. That which drains others seems to feed you. They struggle to plan but you execute with ease. Allow them to speak. Let them obsess. Allow them to exhaust themselves. Attempting to decipher something was never intended to be comprehended via reasoning. They won't understand since your route does not follow a pattern. It is an evolution. While they're busy calculating, you're producing. While they're dissecting your movements, you're already ahead of them, making choices that they'll only comprehend years later, when they find out what you did. You will already have remade yourself. What scares them the most is that you constantly changing forms before they can define you. They are unable to keep up because they are attempting to learn something that cannot be studied. Intuition, alignment, and divine timing. You are no longer part of their hierarchy. You have become the mirror, reflecting its ridiculousness. You aren't in their league. Not because you are superior, but because you have stopped believing leagues really exist. You understand there is no ladder, only frequency. You stopped ascending and began rising. You stopped proving and began embodying. You cease attempting to fit into areas that were not designed for your kind of energy. And the instant you did, you disappeared from their grasp. That is why they label you unreachable. Not because you're hiding, but because they keep creeping. You have become a conundrum in their thoughts. To some, you are a symbol of potential. To others, you are a threat. But you are memorable to everyone. They unintentionally compare their own progress to your presence. They utilize your milestones as reference points. You've become the unspoken benchmark for what's possible. The living reminder that change does not need permission. You've become a legendary standard, a living equation that defies logic every time they attempt to solve it. You stay unaffected throughout. Not because you are chilly, but because you have achieved emotional sovereignty. You've stopped devoting your efforts to misinterpreting your work, to projection, and to noise. You've realized that your silence speaks louder than your defense ever could. You've discovered that individuals who were never intended to tread your road do not need explanation. And in doing so, you've been liberated, free of the views that formerly weighed heavily. Liberated from the stinging comparisons and rooted in a truth so deep that no outside force can dislodge it. You are constructing your future while others analyze your techniques, and you are living your mission. They'll never comprehend that your secret is not strategy, but capitulation. You stopped attempting to control perception and concentrated on alignment. You stopped acting and began being. And that honesty, that reluctance to shrink or justify, that determination to walk in truth, is what is producing the earthquakes in their universe. You aren't playing their game. You aren't even on their board. You are the silent revolution that redefines what is possible without ever requesting recognition. You're live evidence that when someone stops asking for permission and begins acting with conviction, the whole universe shifts around their energy. And the one remains stuck in the old game. They'll keep watching, chatting, and speculating because deep down they know the truth. You did not win the competition. You ended it. You are no longer playing their game. You have outgrown it. You've surpassed the whole structure that they function inside. You don't adhere to their deadlines. You do not pursue their milestones, and you do not submit to the invisible ceilings they have accepted as truth. You move according to intuition rather than instructions. You behave based on alignment, not approbation. That's what's blowing their heads in real time. The discovery that the constraints they assumed were universal are still simply self-imposed. You've demonstrated that the barriers they keep running into were never actual, but rather mirrors of their own fear. They can't handle the truth. They are unable to accept the fact that you have broken free from the restrictions that they still follow. Their whole existence revolves around permission. They need to be picked, vetted, and certified before acting. They've constructed their identities around waiting for the ideal moment. The universe will provide them with the appropriate opportunity and signal to validate their ability to move. You broke that illusion by doing something so easy that it seemed impossible to them. What you did was not tactical. It was not strategic. It was not the outcome of a secret formula or concealed information. It was an intrinsic, primordial, and complete alignment of choice and action. You stopped waiting. You stopped looking for a sign of acceptance, for someone to declare you ready. You stopped adhering to the implicit rule that you must establish your value before acting on it. Instead, you concluded that merit is intrinsic. That preparedness is achieved via activity, not permission. You looked at the distance between where you were and where you wanted to go, and instead of constructing a bridge with borrowed plans, gathering counsel, or following step-by-step instructions, you jumped. You jumped into uncertainty without any safety net. Trusting in momentum would teach you to soar. You didn't simply land. You arrived in a realm they didn't know existed. You avoided the route they were taught was required. You revealed it for what it was. a delaying strategy disguised as rationality. That is why they are unraveling. Because your ascension violates the implicit social contract that guides their whole conduct. You disobeyed the basic precept of ask first. You did not ask. You did not beg. You did not wait for validation. You stole what you knew was yours. You took your fate without apologies. And it is blasphemy for those who have spent their whole lives negotiating permission. You've shown that you don't have to work hard to achieve your full potential. You just need to walk into it. They're having a tantrum because your presence undermines their justifications. You've portrayed their prudence as weakness. Their hesitancy seems to be deliberate self-sabotage. You've showed them that the ideal moment they've been waiting for was a fiction, that the door has always been opened, and the only thing stopping them was their own disbelief. You are a live contrast to what they have been taught. Success is meant to be linear, earned, and limited by invisible gatekeepers. But you made it seem immediate. They don't comprehend that what seems to be a miracle was really a succession of bold micro-choices. Hundreds of times when you choose to act instead of overthinking, to believe rather than question. They are now unable to unsee it. Every justification they use to explain their stagnation crumbles beneath the weight of your example. You did not break the system. You admitted that there never was one to begin with. You have become the living personification of potential. A living contradiction of everything they've been taught about time, work, and permission. You did not play their game. You completely changed the definition of the game. You did not beat them to the finish line. You created your own field, planted your own flag, and rendered the finish line useless. And now, while they're still arguing whether to begin, you're already gone, flying over the sky. They still believe he is unreachable. They will never realize that your greatest act of rebellion was not disobedience. It was emancipation. You have released yourself from the urge to be selected. You stopped striving to be prepared. You just decided. And that one choice altered everything. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the deepening of my faith. Please let me believe you even when there is no tangible proof. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you will never hurt me. I realize that your intentions for me are ones of success rather than harm, in order to provide me with a bright future. Thank you, kind and everlasting Father, for always hearing my voice. I give this prayer to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provisions. I am thankful for your presence in my life and the richness you provide. If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your trip and how you're getting ready for your own victorious homecoming. If you would want to help us out, please consider donating via Buy Me a Coffee. This allows us to consistently improve our content in order to provide you with the best possible experience. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No present is too tiny. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity spreads God's message and gives hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for amazing insights into the indicators that indicate you are the chosen one. We've loved sharing this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for sticking with us until the finish. Keep shining brightly and face your fate with confidence. See you next time. Enlightened knowledge bestows blessings to all lovely individuals.